year in and year out, such and such a date is a deadline. Namibia is going to be free. Deadline, it has been deadline. I've been waiting, hoping against hope that we will go home. First it was 1968 June, then it was October 64, 69, then it was this. Now I do not know what it is. When you look at things from their true perspective, you find that they are just playing with words. If the United Nations is Britain, America, and the whole lot of them, including Russia, what are they doing about it?
The woman in this aged UN video is Putuse Appolus. Surrounded by the children she raises in exile, she talks of going home one day to a country she has had to flee to defend. She was one of the first Namibian women to go into exile during Namibia's fight for independence. Putuse Leonora Appolus was a woman of substance, a dedicated mother, fearless freedom fighter, and staunch Pan-Africanist. Her story starts in the small Eastern Cape village of Govimvava in South Africa, where she was born in 1930. Well-known media personality Nora Appolus is the daughter and one of 3 children of Putuse Appolus. She pieces together the early life of her mother.
She came from a small village, actually, called Govimvava in the Eastern Cape. That's where she was born and bred. We had never actually been there, but when we came back from exile with my brothers, we decided to go there and just let her family know that, we were alive and kicking. It was very emotional. So she came from this village. And it literally is a village. It's tiny, just huts and things like that. So it is incredible. But she always did tell us that it formed her, it made her, and that, in fact, I think is why she was a woman of substance, and why she was very determined, why she had a lot of integrity. I think coming from that kind of a background, that village, really, really made it, helped to shape her into the person that she was to become.
During the height of apartheid in South Africa, Appolus, a qualified nurse, left her homeland for the then Southwest Africa with husband Emile Appolus, a Namibian politician. He had been studying in Cape Town and was a founding member of the Ovamboland People's Congress, which would later become SWAPO. It was here in Namibia that her passion for justice, and more significantly, the plight for the struggle of her people, intensified. In December 1959, she tended to the wounded of the old location massacre against the will of the Boer regime of that time. Consequently, she was expelled from the country as a result of defying the authorities and left the country via Botswana with her 5-year-old daughter and husband.
No, they haven't, but...
The family temporarily settled in what is now known as Congo DRC, where the second child, Jomo, was born.
I am the firstborn, and I have two younger brothers who were both born in Exile. We went into exile, my mother, myself, and my father went into exile in, I think, late 59. It was late 59. And we ended up in Congo DRC today, in what is now known as Katanga province, where my my first brother was born, Jomo. Well, growing up with Mum was fun. It was a fantastic experience. We really had a very happy childhood, even though we never grew up as a family. That is my father, my mother, and my two brothers and myself, because we always had uncles in the house, and aunties for that matter. So the house was never ever empty with just us, the family. It was always people, living with us.
The Appoluses later relocated to Tanzania, where the last of her 3 children, Burumba, would be born. He too reminisces growing up with a loving woman who had all the time in the world for everyone.
I remember her very fondly as a warm and loving person. She was there for not only our 3 children, but also all the other children who were born in this struggle.
It was in exile that she met and became close to politician Ellen Musialela, with whom she would develop a mother-daughter relationship.
Meekulu Putuse Appolus was like she was a mother to me. And I first met her in 1972 in Lusaka. And the first time I just met her, I could see that I'm meeting somebody who is like a mother to me.
Her political role also blossomed in exile, where she held a number of positions in SWAPO. She was elected to the Central Committee in 1969 and was found a member of the SWAPO Women's Council. She received further nursing training and was appointed to health inspector in Lusaka, Zambia in 1964. Her work would lead her to platforms such as the United Nations Committee on Decolonization of Africans, where she would address the concerns of indigenous Africans. Musialela remembers how Meekulu Appolus, as she was affectionately known, had helped shape and refine her own arguments at similar conventions.
And that is what is causing confusion in Europe.
She had to guide me how to look after my babies, or my baby by that time. And she started guiding me in politics to explain to me how things are done. She started to tell me that it's time for us to stand up and go and talk to the world and tell the world the plight of the Namibian women. Because as you know that first, as women by that time were first oppressed as black people in general. Second, as the women. And the third as workers.
Indeed, Putuse's lifelong work was devoted to the upliftment of women. She was a founding member of the Pan-African Women's Organization, PAWO. To Musialela, Putuse was probably the most inspiring person she had ever met.
The lady was such a dynamic woman. She had a heart that if you met her, you will never believe that this is the woman you are meeting for the first time.
A common thread amongst people who have known Putuse in her lifetime was her special skill to bring people together, perhaps owing to her maternal nature.
What you must understand now is she was a very strong character. She was a very forceful personality. And so as a result, she was able to impose her will even on these people who were the leaders of the liberation movement.
She was very strong-willed, and she was a counselor. She could counsel all of us, from everybody, even the leadership. If something happened, if Meekulu was there to talk, we will listen that this is the mother talking. She was a peacemaker.
As a parent now, one of the things that I learned from Mum in hindsight is that your children come first, and you move, you go with your children. You suffer with your children. You have joy, bountiful, manna from heaven. You share it with your children. You never ever abandon your children, and she never did. Through all her hardships, her ups and downs, trials and tribulations, we ride behind her, my dear. She would take us wherever she went, and the proof is that we grew up with her.
Although she did not live to see her greatest work accomplishment, she has left Namibians in exile at that time and future generations with the integrity and self-sacrifice to overcome problems of the present.
Her greatest legacy to the country is the fact that one can and should work for the good of the greater people, and that no sacrifice is too big to achieve that noble goal. And she did so selflessly. She sacrificed, as you said, her home life, her children, her comforts. She didn't have a penny in when she died, because all that used to go to Swapo and feeding all these uncles. Her first car she gave to Swapo. So, but that was the type of woman, and I hope that this legacy will really be propagated, and this is what people need to start doing, working for the greater good of the country.
Her most intimate dream was that one day she would be buried in Namibia, even though it would likely be after her passing.
Since I came from Exile, I have dreamed her first when we came here. She was lying in a coffin, in a gravel, where they take gravel, that hole. I could see it's her, but her leg was up. And she was looking at me. So when I woke up, I was really terrified. And that time my mother was alive. I talked to her. She said, "No, she is looking at you. You better do what she told you." That's why her foot was up. She was lying down, but the foot was up. It's to show you that she's not rested.
She had ordered Musialela to ensure that her remains were to be returned to her people, something that had been haunting Musialela until recently, when her remains were exhumed in Zambia. Indeed, Meekulu Putuse Appolus has returned to the country whose freedom had been watered by her courage, compassion and loyalty. Welcome home, Ma Putuse. Salane Kahle.